Since we recorded this episode of Stay on Target, we intercepted new information. It's been revealed that Andy Serkis will be playing Supreme Leader Snoke, and it looks like he's going to be a performance capture character. But we'll discuss this more next week. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Stay on Target, Games Radar Plus's weekly Star Wars show. Now, of course, episode 5 is where Star Wars gets really good, so hopefully we can live up to The Empire Strikes Back. With me today in the Millennium Falcon cockpit, or our approximation of it, are Dave Bradley, the editor-in-chief of the film division, and Jordan Farley, who is the community editor of SFX and Total Film. I'm Richard Edwards, the editor of SFX. Now, today we're going to talk a bit about what we think might have been happening between the Death Star blowing up at the end of Return of the Jedi and the start of Force Awakens. But before that, we're going to have a look at some news. Now, it's been all quiet on the Force Awakens front for the last week or so, but we do have big news about what we want for Christmas. Namco Bandai has revealed that the Star Wars Battle Pod, the arcade system, is going to be available for home use. Is this a good thing?
Whose home? Whose home is this? I think it's going to cost $35,000, is that right?
It's £24,000, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
extremely rich people's homes.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, how big does your house need to be? I mean, can you get this through the front door?
So it's an amazing piece, isn't it? Right. So they had it at the Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, and the reports from it. I know you've got some screens there to look at. I mean, it looked phenomenal. Probably worth every penny of its £24,000 price tag.
You would have to be on it all the time to make it worthwhile, though, right?
You would. You'd have to play it several thousand times to make it worth the money. Not to mention there's a premium edition, which is what this is, which costs £100,000.
What? So what makes that special?
I think there's leather seats. It comes in Darth Vader and I think some kind of Rebel Alliance.
Right, is that?
Yeah, there you go, the other one. And it's basically got like tailored screens for you, like the credits have your name in and you get like your own tailored instruction manual and things like that. I'm not sure it's worth 4 times as much, but it does look cool.
It does look cool. I mean, if I've understood this correctly as well, there are further missions. It comes with 5 missions, right, to play. And I think there are further missions going to be made available in the future. Is that right? If I've understood that correctly?
Yeah, that seems reasonable for that much money. Free DLC.
Yeah. I mean, you know, obviously, I've had cars that cost less than this. Well, of course I have loads less than this.
Yeah.
A tenth as much.
It does look incredible though. I remember playing the old Star Wars arcade game, which was basically like this, where you fly over the Death Star and fly on Hoth and things like that, and this looks even better.
Well, it's got the curved screen, hasn't it? So that was the exciting thing about it. So it's immersive, and that's the experience. And the battle pod itself, it's got a chair. It has the joint controllers, the power stick and the joystick with the 2 firing modes on it. So I mean, it's an amazing arcade machine.
It is.
No doubt about it.
What you want is an Oculus Rift headset to go with it, so then you're fully immersed in it.
Will you ever be satisfied?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that I might be settling for a cardboard box with some pictures stuck on it. But in the meantime, we can dream.
Calvin and Hobbes style, that'd be
exactly,
a spaceship written on the side in crayon. Well, so the missions that you get to play, right, they're classic missions. That's right, isn't it? So you get to replay the Death Star assault from the first one, the Hoth battle.
Yeah.
Well, I think this seems
Endor, right?
I think this seems to be one of the big things with Lucasfilm at the moment. They seem to have twigged that no one's really that fussed about the Battle of Naboo. It's really all about the original trilogy stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Right. They're very much distancing themselves from battles in the prequel trilogy with this.
Yeah.
Well, so the thing, the Battle of Naboo, which has always annoyed me since 1999, is the whole thing is won by luck, right? So Anakin Skywalker just presses buttons randomly and flies up. So that's not a game, is it?
And also, Jar Jar just kicks a ball.
Well, exactly.
That explodes at the right time.
So as a simulator, that would be a terrible game to experience, wouldn't it? You just sit in it, R2.
Press button for luck.
I mean,
right, no, that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Right.
I've wanted to do that forever. Apart from having my spaceship trodden on by an AT-AT.
Now, I mean, some of these scenarios were available in previous, various different versions.
I really love the Rogue Squadron games on the N64, on the GameCube. And the N64, and they kind of recreated all these similar battles, but this looks infinitely better.
It's the pod that makes it what it is, because I mean, if you're happy to play on a home console system, you've got Battlefront to look forward to later in the year anyway, haven't you? But I guess the thing about this is it's a vibrating leather chair and it's a curved screen. And
I mean, maybe we are looking at this the wrong way. Maybe you should just sell your house and live in the battle pod.
Yeah.
I mean, that is how you get value for money. Anyway, we'll come back to that some other time when we worked out the best use for a battle pod. But now we're going to talk a little bit about that gap between episode 6 and 7.
Chewie, we're home.
Okay, now we're going to talk a bit about what might have been going on between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, and be warned, this bit will be filled with rampant speculation. We are going to be doing a lot of guesswork. But what we do know that the Death Star blew up at the end of Return of the Jedi. We know that Darth Vader is probably dead, and we know that Luke Skywalker is now a Jedi, and that Han Solo and Princess Leia are presumably an item, and that people have been dancing with Ewoks. So, okay, we've got about 30 years between the two movies, so we know that Han, Leia and Luke are back. Where could they be?
Well, actually, it's funny you should say about we know that Darth Vader's dead. Sure, in the first, when they first started expanding the universe, and we had Timothy Zahn writing Heir to the Empire in those books. Of course, those books went and brought back Darth Vader as a Force ghost, and Palpatine came back, even though he was blown up in the Death Star. So actually, anything's up for grabs, really.
It is if they want to go down that route. I kind of think they probably won't have a clone emperor, but you never know.
I was thinking about that earlier, but would it be disappointing if they brought the Emperor back? I mean, that's implying that there is only one bad guy in the universe. You know, can't you do something else? I mean, his legacy is surely going to be there, but we know that he was trained by Darth Plagueis because his apprentice killed him. But surely it would be a bit of a cop-out to bring back the Emperor.
We've got Kylo Ren, haven't we? So we assume that they're establishing a new set of bad guys.
There's scope here to do something new, and why wouldn't they do something new? I mean, they've got enough links back to the original trilogy with Luke, Leia, and Han. They don't need the Emperor as well.
Right.
Though J.J. Abrams does have form of going back to an old villain, like in Star Trek.
Yeah,
They had a whole universe and he went back to Khan.
Of course, actually, the First Order is obviously very much in the Empire's descendants, aren't they? Because they, you can see the Stormtrooper outfits and so on. And the idea that that the Empire stumbles on past the destruction of the second Death Star is not new either. That was in the original expanded universe too, the Imperial Remnant, and it kind of makes sense from history as well. I mean, it took the Roman Empire centuries to decline once it.
It would be crazy, wouldn't it, if the Emperor went and you blew up a Death Star, and every Imperial officer who had been ideologically attached to this thing said, "Oh, I've made a real mistake with my life."
Well, in the very first Star Wars film, Tarkin tells Vader that the individual regional governors now have jurisdiction, doesn't he? That's one of the things that they say. So as far as we're concerned, there's all these sectors out there that are overseen by a Grand Moff or someone, and they're basically running their systems like little mini emperors, aren't they? So any one of these could rise to power.
And the galaxy's so big that it's going to take, a certain amount of time for the news that the Empire's actually been defeated to reach the far-flung reaches of the galaxy. So, they might not even hear for 30 years that the Empire's even been defeated.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks pretty imperial. I mean, they've obviously got some serious funds behind the First Order, shall we say? I mean,
let's not overthink the economy of the Star Wars universe. But,
I mean, it looks rather like the First Order the Empire might have evolved into it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no question.
I mean, even if you look at this chap in the background, I mean, he's quite imperial there. We've got what looks like Captain Phasma in the background.
Yeah, that's right, standing behind him.
Stormtrooper. Yeah, these silhouette there, very similar to Darth Vader.
They're definitely wearing capes, aren't they? Which is a style choice.
Yes, the iconography is very imperial. So presumably something has lived on. Someone has seized the mantle. Yeah. But one thing we do know, though, about something that has happened is that we know that while the First Order looks like it's what has become of the Empire, we know that there's going to be something in between for the Rebellion and the Resistance, which is the new sort of goody.
The New Republic, I presume.
So because we know that from the new Battlefront game, there is a Battle of Jakku, which happens on this desert planet from The Force Awakens, and that happens just after the Battle of Endor, and it is very much described as being between the New Republic and the Empire. So presumably that's the Rebellion clearing up some of the mess that's left after the Death Star.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess if the progression is from the New Republic to the Resistance, there's an implication there that there's some major defeat in store for the New Republic that leads to them becoming the Resistance.
Now, it doesn't look like this battle's been particularly good for the Empire, let's be honest. That Star Destroyer trashed. But I mean, so there's. I think we'll probably be finding out in some of the books that are coming out that's going to be one of the interesting things leading up to The Force Awakens.
Absolutely right. So Chuck Wendig's writing Aftermath, which is the first of the trilogy of books that bridges this gap of 20 books that are coming out this summer. Right, it's set in the in the new continuity. So presumably in Aftermath, we'll find out immediately what happens after the destruction of the second Death Star. But you never know with some of these things. I mean, even George Lucas pulled this rug from under us before. For all we know, the New Order is in fact the New Republic. The First Order is the New Republic.
It would be great to see New Order. In the movie.
New Order, yeah. They'll turn up. It'll be, yeah. They can provide the soundtrack, but yeah. So we don't know that.
We don't. They do look pretty evil, but don't put it past them.
I mean,
they could be the good guys.
But the Clone Troopers started out working for the Republic.
They did,
right?
So I always thought they looked a bit shifty, though.
I mean, maybe they've just got their PR wrong. Maybe these are the good guys, and they just chosen some really bad uniforms to wear.
Possibly, yeah.
But sorry, go on.
I was going to say those 20 books are the important thing, aren't they? For bridging the gap between episode 6 and episode 7. They have been designed specifically to tell that story in those 30 years. And Chuck Wendig's Aftermath is the first book to do so. And they've said like the titles of the books are all going to be kind of Easter eggs, which kind of hint at things that are going to happen in episode 7 and things like that. So you'll watch episode 7 and then the titles of the books and what happens in the books will have more resonance because you've seen the film.
Right.
So we might read these books and not even realise how important they are until we've actually seen the film.
I know we talked a bit about the expanded universe last week, but I mean, this is a big operation, isn't it? I mean, this is all tying together for the first time. The books and the comics really do matter.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a nice jumping on point as well because Star Wars canon was so sprawling and unwieldy if you were coming to it, if you were coming into it now previously. But now there's a clear jumping on point where you can start reading books and start reading comics and start playing the games, and you're getting the full picture and the full story, not having to worry about all these peripheral stuff that you're never going to be able to catch up on.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, as Chris was saying in last week's episode of Stay on Target, that they've managed to make some odd things still remain canon. Like, they could have gone even deeper and just written off all the prequels.
Yes.
And the Clone Wars as well, as much as I love it, like, there's some odd stories in that series which are considered canon, and Jar Jar still exists in that, so that's kind of annoying.
But if Jar Jar didn't exist, you couldn't eliminate him.
Yeah, true. So, and JJ does want to leave him dead in a
so there are maybe some plus points there. Now, of course, Han, Chewie back. Now, Han has said one line: "Chewie, we're home." Clearly back on the Millennium Falcon. So presumably he's been away. I mean, presumably it looks like the ship hasn't been his.
Well, exactly. Although if viewers of this of this video want to find some spoilers, there's a lot of people speculating and piecing together things that they've seen from leaks and things about how things might develop. But
should add there. We could have actually gone into some quite depth about what's actually out there. If you look in sort of more questionable sources, but this is very much for the point of view of people who don't want to sort of get too spoiled. So we are speculating.
But yes, the implication when he says we're home is that Millennium Falcon is their home, right? Rather than because you can never tell. We don't know.
We never got a sense that he was particularly tied to a planet. I mean, we know he's from Corellia, but
exactly.
We've never seen Corellia in the movies. So
absolutely. So we can assume that it's been out of his grasp, and therefore that somehow it is returned to him.
Do we think that Han and Chewie have been hanging around together in the intervening 30 years, or have they been separated as well?
I think they're pretty much inseparable.
They're BFFs, aren't they?
I think
they never leave each other's
You can't have
side.
one with each other. Doesn't Chewie have a life debt to Han anyway?
For saving him from the Empire, that's the...
So I think that Chewie wouldn't leave him even if Han wanted to.
Maybe this is what causes a little tension between Han and Leia. Just Chewie's always hanging around, like Leia's like, let's go on honeymoon, and Han's like, I've got to bring Chewie along.
Yeah.
There's some interesting parallels there, and presumably our heroes of old can act as mentors to the new characters, because there was always the backstory that Han Solo had been an Imperial pilot, right? He realised he was in the wrong and turned to which seems to be the same journey that Finn is on, right? Starting out as a stormtrooper. So again, maybe sort of assuming that role, and then you'd think that Han and Chewie have got some wisdom to impart to them.
Well, that's one of the rumours that let's see if it's substantiated, is that Han and Leia are actually estranged when the movie kicks in, which I actually think is more interesting than they've been living happily ever after for 30 years, because you can't really imagine Han and Leia sort of settling down and going, oh, it's all wonderful.
Yeah, but especially Han. Like,
Yeah.
he just doesn't seem like a man who would stay in one place for too long.
Right. Rolling Stone gathers no
exactly.
moss. So this is interesting here. Obviously, in the trailer, we saw the lightsaber being handed over from one character to another. But actually, at Star Wars Celebration, also there was a concept art of Rey's character holding Han Solo's pistol. So as much as that lightsaber is handed over, we can maybe speculate that Han hands his weapon onto another character in the new film as well.
Yeah, I think it's been speculated a lot that Rey could well be the daughter of Han.
Yeah.
Well,
Should make
I mean, I
sense.
think it's likely that one of the new characters has at least some familial tie
Right,
with.
exactly.
I mean, it would seem, especially as the original 6 movies are very much the Skywalker saga, it would seem strange to sort of break away from that with the episodes.
Interesting. So as much as, say, the 3 films with the Skywalker saga, the 6 films with the Skywalker saga, this could very well be the start of the Solo saga. Is that what you're suggesting?
Though, if it is Princess Leia, it is still the Skywalker saga.
Skywalker Solo. Hyphenated, double barrel surname.
Now, speaking of Skywalker, here is, we think, Mr. Skywalker.
We assume,
Luke
yeah,
Skywalker,
yeah.
he's got a metal hand. I mean, there could be other people with metal hands in the Star Wars universe. Now, it looks like he is with R2 here. I mean, maybe him and R2 have been off together for 30 years. I mean, there are a lot of rumours that Luke might have been just gone off and done an Obi-Wan Kenobi and hermited it up somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks very likely, given this image. It looks like this planet he's on looks like in the middle of nowhere, basically. And
It looks like Mustafar, where
it does a
up
bit,
there,
with all the ashes and flames and stuff. Yeah, so it seems likely that he's exiled himself for whatever reason.
But interestingly, in the trailers so far, no sign of C-3PO.
I think that is very interesting. I mean, is that going to be a plot point? We know that C-3PO had his memory wiped at the end of Episode 3, I mean, because he is a bit of a blabber, presumably. But I mean, maybe they are separated. Maybe that's going to be Maybe that's going to be the big reunion.
The big reunion is 3PO coming back.
or R2 just actually saying, "Actually, I never really liked you anyway."
Seems more likely to me.
I mean, do you think maybe Luke's hiding away might be because he thinks that the Force is best out of the galaxy? Because
Which would be in direct contradiction to how the previous, now non-canon expanded universe was, where he goes and sets up the Jedi Academy.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to do it, like
Yeah.
go against people's expectations, because
Yeah.
pretty much every bit of canon post-Jedi was all setting up a new Jedi Academy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So taking it in a different direction is a really interesting way to kick things off.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose J.J. Abrams has already done that with Star Trek. I mean, there's no reason you can't have 2 completely parallel lines of plot existing. I mean, I think people are clever enough to sort of separate the 2.
That's right, and even all the expanded universe that has been designated non-canon still exists. It's just called Legends now, which I totally buy as the idea that you can just enjoy a fiction within a fictional version of the same narrative. Does
The
that make
Star
sense?
Wars universe is big enough for
right.
It's a broad church.
Right. Yeah.
And it also, we've seen Kylo Ren obviously with his sort of fuzzy lightsaber. I mean, it does look like he's DIY'd it. He's made it himself. So it looks like there is no maybe direct line of Sith. We've lost Darth Vader, we've lost the Emperor. Presumably he's sort of done it from books almost.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed that way. I wouldn't be surprised if, again, he has some kind of familial connection to the Skywalker bloodline, but he seems to be the first Sith for a little while, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this persistent and rather amusing speculation that after the Battle of Endor, the Ewoks ate all the stormtroopers. Because we know that they're cannibals, right? And at the end, there's just empty helmets around knocking around.
I just assumed that they wanted to play the drums. Maybe I'm naive.
The Ewoks are the ultimate evil in the galaxy.
That would actually be hilarious. If they were led by C-3PO.
Oh my god! We've busted this wide open.
OMG, spoilers. I mean, of course, the big question, will Boba Fett get out of the Sarlacc? Or is that just a ridiculous plot point that they will just ignore?
Well, he does in the previously and now non-canon expanded universe. He escapes from the Sarlacc pit, doesn't he?
And he goes on to be best man at Dengar's wedding, fellow bounty hunter, which is probably my favourite Star Wars fact.
It's a mystery why they rendered it non-canon, isn't it? but actually, I mean, Mandalorian armor, can withstand anything.
I mean, he's a great character. Everyone loves him for kind of mysterious reasons, but for also good reasons. Yeah. But I don't know if there's really a place for him in the new series of films, because there's enough going on. I think that you don't necessarily need Boba Fett.
Well, I think it does devalue. I mean, this is true in a lot of science fiction, doesn't it? Devalue things if you suddenly say death doesn't matter anymore. If you keep bringing people back from death, the death is no longer.
I mean, Boba Fett's death was extremely cheap.
It was rubbish.
Yeah, it was awful. And I think most people would probably be quite happy to see him come back. But
we are seeing him back though, aren't we? Because they're doing the anthology. Is the rumour that the second anthology movie will be about Boba Fett? So presumably
it's going to be an origin story. I guess it could be set after he gets out of the Sarlacc pit.
We've got no clue that. We've got no clue about that. But yeah.
But there is so much to find out. The next few months are going to be so exciting, and I think Star Wars Aftermath by Chuck Wendig is possibly going to be the biggest selling book of the year, as we're desperate to find out a little bit more. We'll be back next week with episode 6. That's going to be our Return of the Jedi, so presumably we're going to have to blow up a Death Star or something. But in the meantime, may the Force be with you.